Hello and welcome to Plugging Along, a stream dedicated to Lotro plugins. Hello, shortless guys. Good luck with work, yes. Last time on Plugging Along, we checked out the MinstrelBuffs plugin, and after an early, maybe success, we switched over to looking at the BuffBar plugins. This is something Chromite had requested a while back, and we finally got time to it. Hello, StarTac. So today we're going to keep looking at the BuffBars and the 2017 patch that added an icon to show and hide the window. And so as always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. But in the meantime, let's pull up our plugin manager. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to having a desktop. Excellent. So we're going to go ahead and pull open the plugin manager. In the plugin manager, we're going to go see that BuffBars is one of the few that's currently on the system. And we're going to go ahead and load BuffBars. Now last time we saw a problem that was causing the cloning effect. But I don't remember if that is something I saved off here or moved out of the way. So let's go ahead and kind of start from scratch. I'm going to open up a window to Documents, Lord of the Rings Online plugins. Actually, I'm gonna backtrack a sec. Let's go ahead and unload BuffBars here, and then I'm going to open up another window, and we'll just put it in my Downloads folder for right now. We can see I already have some other Penguros plugins where I was kind of comparing what options were available, and we're going to do a similar thing here. Penguros plugins dot maybe fixed. We're going to go ahead and move it out of the way. And then go ahead and use the plugin compendium to install a fresh version of BuffBars. And then we may need to manually patch ourselves. So, Lotro plugin compendium. Let's look for BuffBars. Excellent. We're going to go ahead and add that. You can see installation is already complete. And then we'll want to go ahead and, well, we might actually be able to view from here. Excellent. Well, let's open up another window here. Let me pull that over. And we can see on BuffBars the 2017 update. Good evening, Tan. We're going to go ahead and download this. We'll show, oh, it was already being shown. We'll go ahead and extract this. And we'll just go ahead and let Windows do its default extraction. Awesome. In here, we have a Penguros plugins. We're going to go ahead and drag that over and replace any files in the destination. And now we have a patched BuffBars. Great. So now that we have that, we can compare that with what we had left over from last time and see, did we make any changes? Where were we? Kind of refresh our memories. So we have the maybe fixed. We're going to go ahead and use a tool called Beyond Compare, but whatever tool works best for you. Okay. And we're going to compare it to the maybe fixed and see what, if anything, is different. Oh, excellent. We can see only one file is different, and it does indeed have the fix that we did last time, which was now Little Redhead is doing the Rain of Waffles. This was the fix last time. So now that we see the fix isn't there, let's go ahead and demonstrate the first problem with BuffBars. So we'll go ahead and load BuffBars. And the first problem that people have noted, people in the community who use this much more than I do, that if you are in the effects window and you hit the accept button, then you get a cloned version of the window that you can't interact with and that you can't hide, for instance, if you're doing pictures or something. And that generally just hangs out there until you log off and log back on, and then it goes away. Oh, it does respond to this. That's interesting. But yes, you have this cloned version. If I hit accept again, we're going to see another one come out right there. And only one of them is draggable, interactable, that kind of things. So that's the cloning problem that was described by the community. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and open up my Discord in the background. hopefully it will recognize I'm in streaming mode, so that I can refresh my memory on what Chromite was describing way back when. So this is the cloning thing, and so what we saw last time was that if you in the effect window destroy function, which doesn't really destroy the window so much. I mean, it does a really good job, but set want updates has been set to true, and when that is the case, then Lotro keeps a reference to that object, so they can say update, update, update every frame, and so by setting this to false, we may very well clear Lotro's reference to the object, allowing garbage collection to happen, but either way, we can definitely stop the window from showing back up. So I'll go ahead and copy that fix over, and we'll be right where we were at the end of last time. So if we go ahead and unload BuffBars and reload it, then we can come back in and we can see that if I hit accept, we only have the one window. So that's a one-line fix for the cloning problem. Awesome. All right, let's see what Chromite had to say. Oh, well, not in there. Sorry, now I have to figure out where this was. Well, it was supposed to be. Aha, okay. So, the bug report that Chromite had sent me, BuffBars with added patch for button, which doesn't disappear with F12. So we can hit F12, we can see the BuffBars stays in place, which is a problem if you want to take a picture. Now, this may or may not be a bug. I think it's a bug personally. I think everything should hide when you hit F12. But they've that 2017 patch added this button to override whether the window was visible or not. They might figure, well, if you haven't clicked that button, then you want it to be visible. But I think regardless of this button, if you hit F12, it should hide. If you hit F12 again, it should go back to whatever it was, hidden or visible. Okay. If you make a change to a buff bar, you get a non-updating copy on the screen. Fixed that. And need to update potions for cooldowns. That's an easy thing for me to do, though. Okay. Well, I don't know about the potions thing. I have used this very little, but I did want to dig into what the patch does, because there were some weird things that we saw last time, and maybe we can do something about that. So what I had was the patch files only. I had saved that off, and we can compare that against the pre-patch version to see what did the patch do. All right, I do not want orphans. Let's see. What about differences but no orphans? That's probably fine. Thank you. Okay, just double checking. All right. Saruko says the problem there is if you load the plugin while your UI is hidden, it will be reversed and only show with hidden UI. This is fair. Now, the underlying problem for plugins is that there is no way to ask the Lotro system which mode are we in. Now, the default state for plugins is they get loaded when you log in. And when you log in, your UI is visible. So every plugin defaults to assuming that the UI is visible, because that's the normal state of operations for a plugin being loaded by the built-in plugin manager. It loads when you log in. When you log in, your UI is visible. Therefore, plugins assume your UI is visible and then toggle back and forth based on that. Now, that ignores things like plugins that load other plugins, that ignores you loading it in the middle of play session. But because that's sort of the default happy path, and because there's no way to know for sure which one you're in, it's just sort of the state of the world. Now, there's actually, let's see. I think Opaque Quest Tracker doesn't respond at all, which is its own problem. I need to fix that. Deed Tracker, though. Deed Tracker, I believe, responds to the F12. Okay, so here is a problem with the F12 is that if you hit the escape key while you are in F12, then the game UI comes back even though you're still nominally in the F12 mode. So a really thorough implementation of screen hiding would pay attention to the F12 key or the escape key if it's even possible to pay attention to the escape key. Because right now the UI is visible, but if I hit F12, okay, now the UI is hidden, but all the plugins that thought they were hidden are now visible. So you have to hit the escape key again, and then everything's back in sync. This is a thing, right? Okay, Sarko says it is possible to track escape. Awesome. So a thorough plugin will pay attention not only to F12, but also escape if we think that we are in the F12 HUD turned off mode. But don't pay attention to escape if we're not in that mode. And then, assuming that you were in the right state when you first started up, then you're fine. Okay, so that being said, thank you for that divergence. I appreciate that. So like I said, the opaque quest tracker is one that we were just listening this week to someone who uses it, but they had turned the opacity down to 0 because they were trying to take screenshots. And I was like, I should have paid attention to F12. Whoops. All right, so just BuffBars. We don't need anything else loaded right now. So going back to the code. I don't care about the orphans, I don't think. I just care about changes to code. Okay, so there was a change to this init file. Okay, interesting. That's where they're defining the flag visible. Not where I would have chosen to do it, but that's fine. That's not worth fixing in and of itself. Okay, effect window. So what we saw when we were looking is their way of managing this flag is to first have a global flag somewhere that says, are we visible or not? And then, and I should say, have a global flag where the state of this button, so off, on, where that state is set somewhere globally. And then for each component we want to respect it, set wants updates to true, so the game constantly says, hey, go, 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 go. And each time, each frame, we check to see if that global Boolean value has changed, and if so, change our visible state as well. This is a method called polling, and generally is frowned upon because it's less efficient than simply pushing, hey, hide yourself, hey, go visible, or callback functions where you can just say, call this function when the thing changes and I'll do something about it. So callback functions or push notifications, that kind of thing, much better. Has it changed? 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 Generally not so good. So that's something we noticed last time, is their method of just pulling is not great because every frame, this component, this function is going to be called. And that's going to take just a couple of operations to call the function, check the flag. What are we doing? Checking if that thing is true, and then, oh jeez. Let me pull up the file. This is great. Okay. So plugins, BuffBars, and we're looking at effect window. Okay. So it's not specifically a bug, but in this little code block, what they're doing is saying if flag visible is true, then call set visible true. And if flag visible is false, then call set visible with false. And it makes you laugh because, or it makes me laugh because this whole function could be, if it needed to exist at all, set visible, flag visible. One line, don't check for the value of it because you're not doing anything different. You're just saying the value is the thing that we're passing. The whole update function could be this. Set visible, flag visible. That being said, Ideally, if we're calling set visible and it's the same value as before, nothing really happens, but it's an extra thing, an extra couple of steps that has to happen every frame for each component. So if you have multiple effect windows, they're each going to be called every frame to say, hey, do you want to be visible or unvisible? So that was effect window. Let's go take a look at main. Okay, they call icon save. They add a little output. Nothing weird going on there. We have quick slot bar is doing the same technique. And then they're not doing Bjornings for power. Okay, cool. So basically it's the part up here that we're interested in. Slider item, what's going on? They're setting a parent, awesome. I think that solves the problem of some of the text not hiding if you do F12. So no problems there. Slider window, they are doing the same thing. So the slider window and the quick slot bar and each of the effect windows now is getting called every frame to see if it wants to respond to something that probably isn't changing that often, right? This is when you click this this icon here, the value changes. It never changes unless you have done that. Okay. What else do we have? We have drag bar, where they've done set multiline false. I'm not sure why they did that. I assume because if you name your effect bar really long, it caused weirdness. In fact, I don't have to assume. Let's go and see what happens without that. I was a little curious about this last time. So if we are in Penguros UI drag bar, if we go to line 77, set multiline false, let's just get rid of that and see if we can replicate the problem. And the drag bar is when you're in moving UI mode, it's this thing that simulates all of the built-in stuff. It's very nice. Okay, so let's load BuffBars. Oops, it doesn't know that we're in that mode. Okay, awesome. And then if we, I hit the wrong key. If we come into options, we can rename the length of that. So BuffBars really long name to try out multi-line change, right? That can be the name of the BuffBars. And if it is the name of the BuffBars, that's exactly what's happened. It's now so long that it's scrolling and being beneath the thing you're dragging. So what happens if you set multiline to false? It may just truncate the value. Let's find out. Okay, it just truncates the value. We can see we said it was going to be called BuffBars, really long name to try out multi-line change. It just cuts off really long name. Now, if that's the case, maybe they shouldn't let you put in that many characters, or maybe they could make the BuffBar longer than just the width of here to account for that. But you know, multi-line to false is a thing you can do. Now, the funny thing is, the text, you cannot read anything past name here. But if you come change it, so the multi-line is not enabled, or sorry, is still enabled. Okay, now you can only sort of read stuff after name. So I feel like just truncating it has, I mean, visually, you can't see the extra text very well, but you can see it's there. Like, you can see, oh, I named that too long. Just truncating it, I feel like that's a personal choice, right? Like, which one of these is better? I think I like the extra text is there, and I can kind of read it because I know what I put there in the first place. And if I don't want that, I could make the name shorter. But just truncating it without notice feels a little weird. Anyway. Not a big deal, just a funny thing. Okay, so we're gonna leave that change because it doesn't affect performance, and that's probably just a personal taste kind of thing. Okay, so truncation is back. Awesome. So is that everything? Drag bar, don't need that. BuffBars dot plugin, they changed, oh, they added an image, nice. Which suggests it didn't have an image before? Wild. Okay, so that's all the specific file changes. Now we did a no orphans, that is no files that exist only on one side but not the other option. And the reason for that is otherwise you get all of this. Now, it's nice to be able to see, oh, there's a new icon, but let's see. Okay, the icon states, but it's a little much, right? Just seeing just the files that existed before and have changed can be very helpful. I guess the real question is, left new and left orphans kind of makes sense. I was just curious if what files were added. Yeah, the icon.lua and the icons. Perfect. Okay, so we have a polling system in place where each one of these three classes or instances of these classes is just saying, pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me every frame, and then doing something with that value, setting visible. Oh, that's funny. Sorry, I am wondering, slider window, what's going on? Did I edit something I shouldn't have? Yes, okay. Somehow I had selected text and deleted it. Okay, so this one just calls self-update visibility. That's interesting, and we should come back to that because that's different. The other two of these is just calling set visible true or false. All right, let's look at what slider windows is doing so that we don't expect something different. Oh, I'm gonna undo these changes. Awesome. Slider window. What are we doing here? Okay, so on line 111, we've got, oh, I guess we're gonna make that slightly less big so we can also see the game. Yes. There's this cool little fountain in Bree that is very nice. It's just outside Jasmine's Garden, which is a place that gets like a name pop up if you wander into it. It's nice that Breetown is a little bit more populated than just the quest hubs, but it makes me wonder if there was stuff that maybe they would have slipped in there if they had time and then just didn't. Okay, slider window. So set once updates true, and the function to call each frame is this, which only says update visibility. All right, well, you got me curious. What's that do? Whoa, that's a lot of stuff to do every frame. Okay, so local visible. If self.hidden, then visible equals false. Oh my goodness, this is another one. We're trying to capture off the state of self.hidden, and this could just be equals not self.hidden, right? Just whatever the opposite of that. Oh well, it's fine. It's one of those things. It's like we could do that differently. So visible equals false, visible equals true. Okay, and then we go ahead and have an override by the patch author that says nothing. That's so weird. Wait, if self is hidden. Oh, okay. I misread this. Okay, I guess they couldn't do what I was saying. So we have self.hidden. So if it's hidden, then visible equals false. If it's not locked, then visible equals true. What does it mean for a slider window to be locked? Not sure, but we'll come back to that. And if like visible is false, then visible equals false. So that should override it. Actually, no, it won't override it. Well, oh, that's funny. So if you have set the flag to be false, but it is not locked, then visible will be true. What is the slider window? I wonder. Is that the one that where you have an effect on you? Like, is that the slider window? Let's see. It just says BuffBars. Okay. You got me curious. Effect sliders. Okay. BuffBars. I'm going to rename sliders and see if we get the same thing. Okay, yes. So that's a slider window. Cool. What does it mean to be locked? Show slider. Always only combat has effects. UI elements affect timers. Okay, with height, color. Okay, that's all cool. But it doesn't tell me what locked means. So let's see if we can find out what locked means within the context of a slider window. UI locked. Okay, is that the only place? Key manager is locked. Oh, what? Okay, is locked. Okay, what's a UI locked? If not self-locked, then UI locked. That's not helpful. Oh, okay. That's just the what's the name of that key? Right. What is the name of the reposition UI? Okay, okay. So the reposition UI key binding here. Great, click new binding. No, that's okay. So that is what they're calling locked, which is interesting. Okay, that I need you to be elsewhere. What else is going on? BuffBar quick slots go away. Okay. Yeah, skill kit, you can go away too. So this is locked and this is not locked. Okay, that's interesting. So if you hide things, but then you go in here, the sliders is now visible, but the buff bars is not. I'm not sure why they did that, but that's okay. And then if you unlock, click here, okay, that. But if you, can you click that? No, okay. It's disabled in this mode. Okay. So for buff bars being, or for at least the slider window, self.locked is, are we in the UI reposition mode? Reposition UI. Reposition UI. This comes up to a thing. If there is a term in the game, and you are referencing that thing, just name your thing the same. Now, that's not fair in this case because the author of the patch is French, or at least the language they're using is French. And so there's a non-zero chance that the concept for reposition UI is expressed in some way as being locked. So this, oh no, but buff bars itself already existed. Okay, never mind, scratch that. So buff bars, when they were writing, chose the concept locked. Now, it's also possible 10 years ago that thing was called UI lock or something. But if I were writing a plugin right now, I would try to name the thing reposition UI mode or something. Reposition UI on, reposition UI off, that kind of thing. Instead of a little bit vaguer, locked. Because if there's a thing in the game that you are referencing, just name it after the thing if there's an authoritative name. Sometimes there's not. Like in the deed log for the deed tracker, what are these things up here called? The blue buttons. What are the things down below called? Like there's labels for them, but conceptually, are these pages? Are these pages? Are these tabs? Are these like that's a harder problem to solve. But if the UI has a name for it, use the name. Okay. Sidebar done. Okay, so slider window, UI locked, great. We can understand what's going on here. Is that if the flag visible is false, and we are not in reposition UI mode, then go ahead and set visible equals false. Okay, that's fair. What else is going on? In update visibility. So if none of those things was true, and most of the time, it will not be hidden. It will not be locked, or it will be locked. It won't be unlocked. So most of the time we're going to fall into this else, which is doing at least one check, possibly multiple checks. And that's the kind of thing where I really wouldn't want to do that in an update function, right? You just want to call update visibility when something has changed, but not every single frame. Okay, and finally, after we've done all this calculation to figure out what visible is, we set visible. Lovely. Okay, so how would I change this? If I could wave a magic wand, how would I change this? Well, instead of saying, please call me every update and I will just recheck that flag, instead, I would either use callback functions to register with some sort of central thing that whenever it is changing the flag visible, it says, hey, go look at this. Or I would just call the set visible function for each effect window. Callbacks are a little trickier, or at least a little trickier for me because I don't have as much practice with them. I believe BuffBars is using the add callback or remove callback, so helper functions. So we might very well be able to just piggyback on that. But I guess the real question is, where is flag visible being changed? Now, we can probably find that in icon.lua. It's the only new file. I think it'll be a little bit nicer to look at it in here, though. So let's get rid of that. So icon.lua, if we come in here, we can find flag visible. And we can see that if you left click, oh man, I forget that if you right click, you get the options menu. That's pretty cool. We can find that if you left click the icon, then if it's currently visible, then we're going to set the icon to off and set the flag visible to false. Again, there's a certain question of why not just do flag visible equals not flag visible. But I appreciate that this was a quick and easy way to figure out which of the icons to use. I can think of maybe better ways, like just have a little two-entry dictionary where false references the one, true references the other. You just do a lookup. It's fine. This is only being called when someone clicks the button, so it doesn't really matter if it's inefficient or not very pretty to look at. It's fine, right? We're only caring about the efficiency of the updates because they are getting called 30 times a second, and that starts to matter. Okay, so, or at least that's how I read it so far. If flag visible is true, then set it to false. Otherwise, set it to true. Okay, that makes sense. Right here is where I think we would probably be calling that that function to say, okay, let's tell everyone about it, everyone who's asked. So this is icon.lua. New question, where does anything have access to this? So we have icon, or at least what I assume is French for icon. Interesting. We're just making a new one, but we're not assigning it anywhere. Okay. And then sorry, just kind of reading through here. So I think this is the equivalent of saying, you know, icon equals that, right? We're calling the constructor of icon. We're not assigning it to a variable, which is really weird. But I think that's what's happening, maybe? So, new question, where is icon included? I think we saw that in init. Yeah, right here. Neat. But where is that called from? There's usually a main file. Okay, so this here processes that. Nice, okay. So we can see that there are locals. That's interesting. Oh, that's wild. Why are those locals? An issue we saw on a different plugin was that it seems like at some point the role for local variables in a plugin file changed, and now when you hit the end of the file, they seem to go out of scope and evaporate. So this is strange to me that everything's working as expected. So I guess the real question is, what's up with these? Okay, so we're inserting into the table. We are getting a local settings get windows, and then we're making effect windows from that. All right, you've got my curiosity. Constructor, okay, that's getting us settings. I'm gonna pull that off here so I can look at them side by side. So we, okay, Windows I is a settings, and then effect window is going to make a new effect window based off of that. And in theory, it's going to be stored off in here. That's fascinating. And then unload is trying to iterate through that. Now, what I would like to do is test this assumption. So we do a reset state here. But in the unload function, I am curious. So I'm going to go ahead and do turbine.shell.writeLine and say destroying window, and we'll go ahead and just concatenate I in there. Just because I'm curious if that, that array still exists. So have to unload and then reload, and now if I unload, okay, destroying window 1, there was one window, then that means we have a handle to the windows that we're looking to affect. Awesome. Or do we? Because they're local to main. We might need to change that. Okay, what about quick slot bars? Quick slot bars seems to be the same thing. What about slider window? Well, there's an effect sliders. Is that the same thing? Yes, effect sliders are slider windows. Again, quick slot bars are the quick slot class, effect windows, effect window class. Effect sliders is the slider window class. I don't know if one of those changed at some point, but it's confusing to me that the variable isn't matching the class type here. And if I could wave a magic wand, change it with no breaking, I might change one or the other of them, probably the variable. But I won't get distracted. Okay. Oh, I don't need that window. So we know that these are available. But what I don't know is, are they available from icon? Now, I'm not convinced that icon is really the right place to be iterating through these things, but I am curious if a fast and dirty solution could be stumbled upon. So what I'm going to do is iterate through, and same thing, shell.writeLine, and say found window I, just to see what happens. So it's unloaded, we can load it in, awesome. Now what we see is we don't see that message. Oh, it's during mouse click, of course. Awesome. That confirms that right now we do not have access to effect windows, which I guess isn't very surprising because it's declared locally here. But what if I were to declare it as global? Nope. Oh, of course, I misspelled a right line. Well, at least it found something, maybe. Right line is capital W, capital L. Okay, so found window 1. Cool. That suggests a simple solution where effect windows affect sliders and quick slot bars could be made global instead of local, and then we could just iterate through each of them and call the function instead of relying on the update. Now, is this better than callbacks? I'm not convinced of that, but it's easy. So we're gonna start with that. Okay, so we are in a function where this should be done up above. So we are, there's already a lot going in this inline anonymous function. Let's just split that out. So function icona, and we're going to say update UI elements. Sure, naming things is hard, but that sort of captures it. And we can say self update UI elements. Great. So in here, what were we doing with effect windows? What's going on? Just calling set visible. Whoops. So if we're just calling set visible, maybe I'm going to go ahead and not have icon open in 2 different places. So set visible. Effects window, set visible. What are we setting it to? Well, flag visible. That's fine. It's a global. It doesn't need to be a global. In fact, we could unglobalize that at the same time. That's okay. In fact, let's go ahead and pass it as a parameter here. I know it's currently global, but if we wanted to unglobalize it, we would just go ahead and calculate what it is, and then pass it in to the function. Okay, so that was iterating through the effect windows. Now we just do the effect sliders and quick slot. Okay, so effect sliders, we're not just doing the storing, no, but we'll keep just enough of it. Okay, so what were we doing in the slider? We were calling update visibility. Cool, because sliders has a more complicated system. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and call update visibility, and that is going to be tougher because here we're doing multiple things. I think that could be passed in, but it would have to be passed in everywhere. That's hard. Okay, we'll hold off on right now because it is a global variable. We don't have to worry about that too much. All right, and the final one was the quick slot bars. So if we come in here and check out what we're doing here, we're just calling set visible. So quick slot set visible, and again, we're just going to go ahead and pass flag visible. Okay, so if that's the case, is that enough? Could we undo all the other ones? Maybe. Let's give that a try. So we don't care about... Oh, that's funny. I'm in the wrong place. Okay, so we have the effect window. We have the slider window. And we need the quick slot bars. Okay, quick slot bar. And in each one of these, we want to go ahead and say the set wants updates. And we're just going to go ahead and remove that part. So same thing per Galfo. Thank you very much, Galfo, but we'll do it differently. Okay. So what have we done? We removed the explicit let me check every frame in favor of just having icon tell the things. Now again, callbacks might be a better way, but this is a quick and dirty way to see, does it work? Okay, so we can see that even without the calls to set once update to be true and having an update function, that we're still able to see things. All right, so what's another one? Another one is this bar here. Awesome, we can hide that. And what was the final one? There was, whoops. Effects window, slider window, and quick slot bar. Oh, right, the quick slot bar. Now, I don't know how one is supposed to put stuff in the quick slot bar, but let's, well, clicking and dragging didn't work. That's okay. Let's see if it's in the options. Let's see, quick slot, great. Oh, okay. Interesting. So I might need to find some place to get diseased, feared, wounded, poisoned, or whatever. Curable disease. Okay. And then quick slot. Song of, oh wait, sorry. What is that? Story of courage. What, do we click and drag that and hit accept? Okay. Well, that's cool. Now, the funny thing is, I think this works for pretty much everything, right? Fear, disease, poison, and wounds. Not for morale. Interesting. So one could maybe just do a custom? No, it's fine. I should actually see this in action. So edit, go ahead and set a quick slot, accept, edit, quick slot, and edit, quick slot. Great, now I just need to go get diseased, feared, poisoned, or wounded. So, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that from the rooftops of Bree. So, let's go ahead and, let's see, can I get to, say, West Angmar? Or where else is lethal for me? Oh, for that you have to get to East Angmar. Okay, and that, Rivendell, maybe a friendly hunter will appear. But in the meantime, I'll go to West Bree and see where I can get from there that is dangerous. Oh. Fenton says you could try doing it with morale, setting the threshold pretty high, and unslotting / reslotting equipment. Well, that's a neat idea. All right, let's go back in here. Morale, edit. Okay. Threshold, 90%, 98%. Okay. And if that happens, my goodness, I need to do Court of My Salvation real fast. Actually, can I do 99%? What about 100%? Oh, that's funny. Okay, so we'll do 99%. And then I do have equipment that would do that. So let's go ahead and take that. Oh, interesting. It's changing my current and my max pretty fast. All right, good idea. Oh, there. That might have done it. Okay, let's clear out stuff that might be in front of it. Well, that didn't trigger it. Maybe it knows better. Oh, I'll have to accept first. Good point. Thank you for mentioning that. I forget that that accept button is down there. Okay, we'll try it one more time. Okay. Okay, awesome. So, of course, the key thing would have been to make it invisible. How long does it stay? Does it stay just until I auto heal back up? Okay, click and click. Lovely. Okay, thank you so much for that suggestion, Fenton. That was neat. Now, I wouldn't mind seeing it in action. Oh. So, okay, yeah, it disappeared once I got healthy enough. I wouldn't mind seeing that in action, say, in West Angmar. Hello, Hunter. Oh, well, I'm glad you are finding it interesting. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so maybe a warg outside town will be nice and give me a wound or something, because that'd be cool. Okay, so Hunter fast travel to West Angmar is great because otherwise you have to stable master to East Angmar and then ride on over to West Angmar. Oh, I guess I could get on a mount here. Okay, let's ride out of town, maybe find the one pig in all of Angmar, and see what we can do. Okay, we have a Skara Hunter. Excellent. Okay, so we can see the injury. Oh, and a serious wound. Nice. Oh, that's delightful. I can see why people like this so much. I'm going to turn down the sound a little bit, though. Okay. And does everything disappear? Yes, it does. Awesome. Ah, that's really neat. Okay. And if I get poisoned again, would it show the story of courage even though it's on cooldown? Well, it must, because the cord of my salvation is there. I was really hoping it would wound me again. No? Not gonna do it? Okay. Alright, that might be one of the first things I've defeated on stream. Sometimes you just gotta get your hands dirty when you're testing. Oh hey, maybe a collar will, like, disease me. What do you think, collar? No? Not gonna do it? Okay. Maybe the only pig in Angmar will help. That's fine. If I die in the service of plugin development. Oh yeah, I think we actually need those hill beasts for gems or something. This is about where we are questing on this server, on Treebeard. Okay, I've been knocked down, but I'll get up again. They're never going to keep me down. Poison me, poison me. Maybe two of you can poison me. This is why I firmly believe in plugins having debug features where you can just make it act like something has happened. Now that's hard when you're just designed to react to real life stuff from like, oh cool. Sorry, courage came back. That's hard when you're designed to pull real effects off of the effects stack and do stuff with them. I don't know if there's an easy way to make fake effects, but it sure would be nice. Okay, well that was delightful. Maybe we can go back to somewhere safe. Westbury? Well, I might need to play with some of those. Although I assume because of the way the combat UI, combat API works, that you can only really get that kind of detailed information on your own character and not just general fellowship members. But still, I can see why if you have raid instances where it's like, well, if you get disease, you need to fix that ASP. I think Halograd probably has that with the dragon. Or something like that, where everyone has their own method for getting rid of it, and you want it to pop up. So that's neat. Okay. I've been covered in birdseed. It gives me effect on the one bar, but since I can't dispel it, no. Okay, well that's funny. I don't like that I need the quick feed on that specific bar, but that's neat to see. Awesome. Okay, so what have we learned? We have learned that this 2017 update, and this is, as a sidebar, this is something that you can do with pretty much any plugin or patch. You can just crack it open and see what did they do? How did things change? What were they trying to do, and did they do it? Because as plugin authors and as patch authors, we like to get it all correct on the first try. Of course, we don't. But more importantly, it's nice to kind of check up on each other and be like, okay, you were trying to change the visibility of windows. How have you made that happen? Do I think it's a good technique that I should incorporate into my own systems? Do I think, oh, that's inefficient, maybe we shouldn't be doing that? In which case, maybe we can patch the patch. All that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's pull up a comparison between where we are and where we started. So if I go to my downloads, then we have the post-patch files, untouched, that we can go ahead and, compare with what we currently have in place. Now, can I pull that off to a new window? That would be neat. Why are you showing? Oh, of course. Okay, show differences. What have we changed? Well, the effect window, instead of every update frame trying to set our visibility according to that global variable, and oh, that's funny. Now this change shouldn't be necessary. Oh, okay. I'm gonna pause on my dig into what's changed and see if that's true. So plugins manager, unload, reload, and so we have a bar here, and if we make another one or change it, we can see no clone. Awesome. By never turning set once updates on, we don't have to turn it off again. Neat. Okay, so we had a set once updates. We're going to strip that out. So quick slots bar, we had a once updates. We're going to get rid of it. Slider window, we had a set once updates. Get rid of it. And instead of all of those more processor intensive activities, we will instead just go through each one that exists at the time of clicking that button and say, go ahead and update yourself. And in main, in order to support that, these three tables need to be global instead of local. And that's it. That seems pretty neat. Now, one more thing we could do, like we said, is flag visible maybe doesn't need to be the global that it is. So if I were to come in here and search for flag visible, and let's go ahead and find all the uses of it in Pengross plugins here. Let's find that. We can see in icon, it exists. Okay, so they're using it to save and load the setting. Okay. And slider window uses it and init uses it. So we only have the one place, slider window, where it's kind of a problem, but we could just pass it in here, right? Or could we? Ooh, that's hard. Because update visibility is going to be called in numerous places. But what we could do is have a local variable to slider window where we say set this and then recall update visibility. Is that better? Maybe? Let's go back and look at icon here. Icon, so that was slider window. We could affect sliders I dot, and we can actually set the flag visible equals flag visible, the parameter passed into the function, and then call update visibility. So, what's the default value of this thing? Oh my goodness. Well, that's a funny thing. Sliders, man, you're making things difficult. So, having a global place that we update, it's fine, it's not my favorite, whatever. But having the same state in multiple locations, and then you have synchronization problems, that I dislike more. So if there's a way to pass it as a parameter, we could do that. And there is, but there's a bunch of places calling this function, and I just don't like that. Now we could do a set visible false and just override it. But I think what they're doing is making sure that this progress bar here is visible. Although I'm not sure why, because you still have the drag bar. Oh, that is a hard one. Okay, we're going to leave it. We're not going to bother to try to deglobalize this flag visible. I don't think it's impossible, but it's more annoying, and it's not really making the plugin better. It's just a vanity project at that point. Okay, so quick slot, slider window, effect window, all done. So yes, now when the button is pressed, we just call a function. That function goes through each of the UI elements that cared about this enough to want to know every update frame and fix it there instead. That seems pretty good. Amusingly, perhaps amusing, it is kind of undoing a lot of the implementation of that 2017 patch. Now, not the intent is still there, but the mechanism by which it accomplished that is kind of being undone. So if we come in here and we do a comparison of the patch files to what we're doing, and only show me, don't show me orphans. Okay, so effect window, they added this. This is not a good comparison. Yes, close all tabs for a moment. Okay. No orphans. So effects window, what did they add? They just added this. What did we remove? We removed it. Quick slot bar, they added this and this. We're removing this. Slider item. Oh, we're not touching that at all. That's great. Love it. Slider window, we're removing this, but we're keeping this. And let's see, main. We're not touching any of that. That's fine. So yeah, it feels like we're undoing some of that work, but that's kind of what we had to do because that work just wasn't quite as optimized as we would hope. Especially for something that so many people use for high-end rating, apparently, which is really cool. So how do we know what we've changed to have our patch file kind of replace this other one as the de facto, this adds the visibility button? And do we care about the F12 button? I guess that's an interesting question. Like if I do F12, oh, it actually responds now. Of course it does, because it's not constantly overriding F12 with a peek at the that value. That's great. Good job, original BuffBars. I guess good job me for fixing it. Okay. Well, I was going to say, should we make these windows hide when you press F12? But fixing the update loop, where it was constantly rechecking that value, fixes it for us. Great. Love it. Well, that's cool. What else? Doesn't disappear with F12. Fixed it. If you make a change to BuffBar, you get a non-updating copy. Fixed it. Need to update potions for cooldowns. No idea what that means. Though I assume it's if you have a potion in your quick slot bar, it's not showing the cooldown timer. All right, yeah. Let's try to replicate that. So we'll come in here to the plugin manager, and in the options, quick slot for morale, because we know how to trigger that, or now I know how to. Let's just drag in my potion. I got plenty of them. They keep dropping. As a minstrel, I don't use them as fast as I get them, so it's fine. Oh, 49 items. That's cool. And then, same as before, I'm going to move all that stuff out of the way. Same as before, I'm going to go ahead and take off some of this armor so I can trigger I didn't hit accept. Okay. So let's see if we can trigger it again. The potion should be on cooldown. It shows on cooldown. Hello, LU. Good evening to you. Okay, I gotta say, Chromite, if you are listening now or if you are rewatching at some later time, I am not sure what need to update potions for cooldowns means in the context of BuffBars. I'm seeing it's cooling down here on this bar here. And I'm seeing when I change my health that it is both in the quick slot and I can see the radial cooldown. So, oh, and I can see it in this list here. So, what's up? What's broken? But I think we've got a really promising start here. So the key, there are kind of two ways we could do it. We could release a patch that is just changes to the 2017 patch, but now you've got a patch on a patch on a patch, well, patch on a patch on a plugin, or incorporate all of the changes that they did in 2017 with a new patch. So the patch would replace that one. Now, not using BuffBars actively, I can't actually say which is the better one, but right now, the current existing patch does not seem to be in the Lotro plugin compendium, which, well, you know, I say that, I should double check. Well, it's called BuffBars, but I'm going to search for MaJ. Nope, it's not. So, oh, Captain Flint says, I use One Launcher. It's got a built-in plugin manager. Excellent. I haven't used One Launcher, although I saw that the developer is planning on making sort of a default server, so you don't stall out on the server selection page. You can just click a shortcut and go straight through into the game. That sounds really exciting. But I haven't used One Launcher yet. It's just something I noticed. Okay, so that plugin is not in here. But if we submit a patch and reference both the original plugin and the patch that we're changing as prerequisites, it might not matter that it's not in here. We could still silently install it and then just include the changes to it. So, and that might be my preference because having a patch that includes their work feels a little weird, right? That was their change, and pulling over some of that, like if it was just a bug fix, like fixing some language strings or whatever, but it's a feature change that works, so I'm of two minds about it. But the good news is that you can't patch a patch, you can just patch a plugin. So we can push it out as a plugin that requires the other one, submit it to Lotro plugin compendium, and if at some point we want to roll those other changes directly in instead of just referring to them as prerequisites, then we have that option. So that's going to be my starting point, is just submit changes onto that other patch to start. Okay, so what does that mean? We have the patch files, and we know which files are different. Oh, that's a lot of download folders. Okay, so we have the patch files only. We have our current working stuff. So let's go ahead and see what is different. You know, I'm going to need the post patch instead. So post patch, but pre my changes. What's different there? There we go. So show differences, excellent. These are the files we need. Just effects window, quick slot bar, sliders, icon, and main. And that makes sense. Those were where our changes were being isolated. Awesome. So we can start bundling this up into a patch. Now I have a folder where I do that. I have documents, plugging along, and then I go ahead and have, plugging along releases, whole separate folder. And here we can go ahead and start bundling together a patch. Now, other thing we might want to do is bump the version. So the version currently is 2.1.1. Let's see what they did. BuffBars was version 2.1.1. They kept it. Oh, they released a version 1 patch for that. That's interesting. I'm going to go ahead and call this 2.1.1.1 or maybe 2.1.2, depending. I like appending a subsequent my version to whatever the plugin version was. That way you can see this is meant for BuffBars 2.1.1 and it's my first iteration of the patch. Okay, so we're going to need a release folder. So buff bars v 1.2.2.1, is that what I said? Well, oh, 2.1.1.1, excellent. Well, I'll just go ahead and paste that so I don't have to type it manually. Excellent. So within this, we know we need the BuffBars .plugin and a BuffBars.compendium. And in this BuffBars compendium, we want prerequisites, things that need to be installed first. Now, I don't actually remember what this looks like, but I don't need to because there's other plugins that I can just copy. So in Lord of the Rings Online, we'll go in for plugins, Q plugins, it's me. And then in the deed tracker plugin compendium, we can see dependencies looks like this. Oh, good. It was already there. And then we just need to fill in the number of each dependency. So BuffBars is number 361. And then the MaJ / update 2017 is lucky number 1000. Nice. So we need 361, then we need 1000, and then our files can be put on top of that. Cool. Oh, we're going to need to fix the ID, though. It's always something. Okay, so we won't include the plugin compendium on the first go. We'll need the ID of our patch first, but we'll get there. Okay, so which one was I editing? Neat. All right. So we won't go with that, but we will go ahead and create the BuffBars folder. And in that folder, we already had the list of files changed. I cleverly closed that. So let's go ahead and open that up again. Great. Okay, so we know we need effect window, we need icon, we need main, we need quick slot bar, and we need slider window. We're going to copy those on over to create our patch. Oh, Fenton has a great question. As the 2017 patch doesn't seem to be on the compendium, can this be easily installed if that one is a dependency? I believe so. I believe the plugin compendium uses that ID, goes to Loader interface and grabs it, whether or not it was already in plugin compendium. So I guess we'll see, right? But it seems like that would be an easy thing for plugin compendium to do, is just say, okay, grab that thing, plop it into place, and now grab your thing and plop it into place. Because that's all it's doing with the prerequisites, is it's just downloading and extracting that into your plugins directory first. And if it's kind of coherent like this, where you have a plugin and then a patch and then another patch and maybe another patch, then they're all kind of going into the same place, just layered on top of each other. And since it's all of a file or none of a file, it just replacing the files that have changed with the new content. So I think so, but stick around, we'll find out. Okay, so in BuffBars, we have these 5 files: effects, icon, main, quick slot, and slider. Out here, we have the BuffBars plugin file, which has the new version, but we don't have the plugin compendium yet. But we will go ahead and just upload, get an entry, and then we can re-upload with the plugin compendium. So that's straightforward. We'll do that now. Oh, one thing, we'll want to go ahead and make a zip file out of this folder. So, I have left off an important level. There should be an author folder. So Penguin plugins, and then these should appear inside of it. Because whatever is in your zip file needs to match the current structure of the plugin directory file. Okay, so let's go into Documents, Plugin Long Releases, and we're going to make a new zip file, but we're just going to call it the same thing, BuffBars version, etc. And then into that, we're going to drag the Penguin plugins file, because when you extract this out, you're going to get Penguin plugins in whatever directory you're going to, in this case, plugins. Awesome. So we have a zip file. Now we need to think about text. So this text is going to be in English, and it's probably going to be similar to previous, but I am curious how they described this in French. So I'm going to go ahead and use Google's Auto Translate. Everything is in the title. Here's an update from BuffBars. That's not everything. It's fine. This update requires you to previously upload. Okay, that's great. Doing extraction, yeah, move and replace. Addition of an icon, in-game button to hide. It no longer overlaps above the windows. Oh, yeah, okay. And add an exception of the low power trigger so it no longer appears on the Bjornid. It was a good try, Google. All right, it's recommended to load BuffBars before combat analysis. The French patch is not included in this archive. Prefer an IG or... Okay, that all makes sense. Neat. I've got a sort of a form that I use for other patches, so I don't have to think about it too much. And to reach that, I'm just going to go to the Loader interface, list my interfaces, and go find a recent patch. All right, Titan Bar, that was a recent patch. Great. The reason I copy this is that there's already instructions here on how to install the thing, and I don't want to have to come up with those from scratch, right? Just whatever worked in the past, it's probably fine here. So, easy mode, if it's your plugin, you can just edit and copy. Otherwise, you kind of have to recreate what's the formatting? It's not Markdown, but BB code or something. Recreate it or get another plugin offer to share theirs, which is fine. Okay, so we have introduction and cool. Let's start updating this to match. So this is all about BuffBars. BuffBars is a great interface for showing, I don't even need to describe. This patch fixes issues with the BuffBars MaJ update for BuffBars. Oh, and that we can go ahead and link. Great. And then issues fixed. Sure. We can make a list, and we can make a bulleted list with asterisks. And then what did we do? Fixed issue of non-updating copies of, what are they called? Effect windows being created when you save changes. At the same time, we fixed issue where effect windows would not hide when pressing F12, and I don't know if we can call this a fixing of the performance. Like, yes, we're definitely doing less work, but I don't have any measurable data that says that all of those update calls were actually slowing things down. But they couldn't have helped. Changed code to not make use of, what was it, set wants updates. Oh, when in doubt, check the API. Turbine.ui control, and we want to go to the set wants updates. All right, change code does not make use of set wants updates true for each effect window, quick slot bar, and slider window. Cool. So anyone who cares what that means, they can see it there. Otherwise, yeah. Okay, installation and setup. First, you need to install two things. Let's get my window back up here. First, you need to install BuffBars version 2.1.1 and this one. And that is version 1.0.0. So we'll grab that link. And I'm doing this here instead of directly into the browser because I've had one too many instances of accidentally closing my browser window and then the stuff is gone, as opposed to do it here, then copy it into the browser, and if it works great, if there's some sort of network problem and it doesn't save, it's fine, I've got a copy of it. Okay, so you have to install BuffBars and the BuffBars MaJ update. What, does anyone know what MaJ is in this? I'm drawing a blank on what that could be. Oh, it might be a French version for one of the patch or expansions. All right, this patch only includes necessary changes to update from there. To install, you can use Literature Compendium or just unzip the archive and drag it. Drag the, oh, that's different. Pangoros plugins folder into your Documents Lord of the Rings plugin folder. All right, next down this. Oh, yes. To install BuffBars, you can use plugin compendium or unzip it. To install the MaJ update. Oh, hey, Chromite. Pretty good progress so far. Feel free to rewatch later, but we went ahead and changed the set once updates code so it doesn't do that anymore. As a side effect, it now respects the F12 key again, because it was that checking every frame, should it be visible or not, that was messing that up. The question I had for you, and you will see that on the rewatch, is you said need to update potions for cooldowns. That's easy for me to do though. And I haven't figured out what that means. For instance, we were playing around with the morale trigger for effects. I just set it at 99%. And who was it? Fanchon had the excellent idea of just taking some gear off and then putting it back on. Great. So the question I had is, I see the potion timer here on the slider. I see it down here on the effects window. And if I were to go ahead and do this again, I can see it here in the quick slots. The potions have to be added manually. When you quaff a potion, it puts a cooldown bar for that potion type. So later game potions are not in there. Oh, well, I guess I just don't know what's up, because for here, for morale, I just edited and drug my potion in here. It sounds like there's maybe something else that you're talking about then? Let's see. Later game potions are not in. Find the file with the potions listed and you'll see. Oh no. Game. We will pause on making the release while we dig into this just a second. So in BuffBars, let's see. Well, I'm not seeing something that says potions, so let's come on in and do a search for, well, I can't read it if stuff's on top of it. Distilled Athlos. Okay. Cooldown manager.pots. Oh, fascinating. Oh, so it sees that you used it and then has a lookup table to know how long the cooldown is. Interesting. Okay. Well, I see what you are talking about then, because I was foolishly assuming that it was using something about the item to grab that information for these two cooldowns, but it looks like it's just using the file. In fact, if I came in here and looked for Celebrant Salve, distilled Celebrant Salve, excellent. And if I went ahead and just said, you know what, that cooldown is way longer, go ahead and unload and reload, and then use this. Okay, yeah, so instead of 2 minutes, we can see 20 minutes. Neat. Okay, that's a really clever way to solve the problem, because you can see you used the thing, therefore you know how long it can be with this lookup table. Okay, well, really, it's just a question of having a list of every item that changes your status, and that sounds like a bigger project than what I can do right now. But what I am curious about is if we look at an item dump, which is only 63 megabytes, what does the dumped information look like for distilled Athlos? Okay, we can see it's a potion. New question. What does which one of these does something that's not healing? Probably that, right? What do you do? Cool, moves up to 1 fear effect. Awesome. So if we went ahead and found that, we can see it's also a potion. And I'm not seeing a cooldown in this data dump, but this would be a place to start because the wiki might. Is there a way to do a pattern match instead of manually adding everyone? I think a problem is that if you're looking at your combat log, and I go ahead and use one of these, increased morale applied to a heal to Aphrodite, restoring this many points. I'm not sure how it knows that that's the one I used. Hang on. What are these called? Athelos. Killing me. I just want a potion. Oh, you know, actually. Cure disease? That's a thing? No, probably not. Okay. Cool. We'll just get 10 of those. Sell them to a vendor later. Oh, interesting. Right. It shares the same cooldown. So if we're back in here, just under morale, all morale does that. Okay. So if it's a morale potion, then it's 2 minutes and it goes in this array. If it's a power, if it's a disease, fear, poison, wound. Oh, the store ones only have a 20-second? That's cool. So why does this line exist? Yeah, that's what I was curious about, is how did it know which one that I used? So I have these greater Athelos essences to try instead of the distilled one. And I was curious, like, how does the plugin know? Because the combat chat just says increased morale, right? Okay, obviously it does know because it grabbed the right one. How? How does it know that? I'm going to put a pin in it and hypothesize that there is a callback that you can engage in on the local player that says, tell me when an item is used. Let's say I'm going to put a pin in it. I'm going to go look at local player right now, but not for very long. Okay. Is there a message in standard output? No. The last message I have is you have won the auction for a greater Athelos essence. All right. We have a variety of events with the local player. Morale changed, sure, but probably not how. Now the effect, it could be an effect. I will grant that. Anyhow, I think that's really interesting. So I see what you're saying. I see that adding them is a matter of finding the name of every potion linked to that specific cooldown and adding it to this array here. Also, the L here shows it's been localized, so we're also looking for an entry in the BuffBars locale, so we can see like the German entry. Oh, it's not there. That's even funnier. That's fascinating. Or is it somewhere else? Oh, no. Oh, it is there. Oh, it might not be in the French file. Yeah, that's funny. It's not in the French. Or it's the same in French. Fascinating. Okay. So if it were me, if I were waving magic wands, I'd be really tempted to add some new lines in here to make it more readable. But that's really cool. Okay, so we have a get item. Oh, interesting. Okay, so we are adding a cooldown on items to say if your quantity has changed, then that's how we're getting it. Okay, that's neat. I have to assume that's not terrible. At most, you're going to have 130 items in your inventory, and so for each one, we're attaching, or for each stack, we're attaching a handler. That's fascinating. But then it has to, yeah, interesting. It's got to track that. Oh my goodness! Every time you add or remove or swap things in your bag, it's tracking those. That's fascinating. Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, obviously the effect is pretty cool. So, yes, if one had a complete list of every morale affecting potion, one could add it to this, what I would recommend not being a single line of 765 characters, but to this block. And same thing for power, disease, fear, potion, and wound. Yeah, that's doable. I think I'm going to hold off on that right now, but I certainly don't mind, especially if someone else just sends me, hey, here's the text that should be there. I could definitely roll that into a future release of this patch that is fixing other things, so that there's a one-stop shop for the updated patch for BuffBars. But I think that's beyond what I'm capable of doing on stream without it being really boring stripping out of stuff from this file. That being said, if it was something I was going to do, we can see this file has 797,000 lines, but we could definitely look for things that are subcategory potion and extract them out to their own file. We can see there's only 527 subcategory potions, but the multi-select in this behaves a little oddly. So a thing that I will sometimes do, and this is going to be hard to see, is I will drag it to my second monitor and then just make sure that lines are really not. Or I could turn off line wrapping. That might be even better. Can I do that? Word wrap. There we go. Okay. So if we go ahead and find subcategory potion, and copy that out to a new file, there are 467 potions in the item dump from Lotra Companion. But the neat thing is they seem to have some similar wording, right? I thought I said no word wrap. So, recovers your power. Okay, cool. So, there's 31 things that recover your power. Okay, what else do we have? We have recover your morale. Okay, cool. There's 27 of them. What else do we have? Cures wounds. Awesome. There's 34 of those. And at least we can see there's consistency, right? 50, 55, 60, 65, 75, or 70, 75, 80, also 80. Interesting. So this is just looking for pattern matching. It's not guaranteeing that what we're finding is correct. But once you had this, you would look over it with a human eye and say, oh, okay, yes, these are all poison. These are all wounds. These are all whatever. Okay. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to finish the exercise. Cures diseases. Okay. Oops. Pressed the wrong key and want to make sure I didn't delete things by accident. All right, so that's cures diseases. What else do we have? Cures fear. All right. Awesome. Now we have, we can see that I was assuming they would all say cures wounds, but now we're on to the cure most wounds. Or stinking poultice recovers your health when used. That's an interesting question. What on earth is your health? I thought we had morale. Oh well. So I might go through this exercise later and try to piece together which ones are which. But this is the kind of thing that you could do if you didn't have access to every potion in the game. Is you could look at a data dump and be like, okay, the Draught of War Tyrant's Spittle is a level 130 that, let's see. Oh, that's funny. Apparently potions also include move faster potions. So we could just exclude that. We don't care about that one. Fun. And then some of these don't have a description, which means I'm going to ignore them because if there's no description here, I could go to the wiki. And if it's in the wiki, I could use that. But anyway, so cool. Thank you for... Oh, cells are different than potions. Cells can be targeted on people. Fascinating. Do they have the same cooldown? Awesome. Yeah, thanks for touching base on what the problem is there. I might actually... All right, so we're going to close down some of those and come back to that. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Windows. Awesome. Okay, so we'll put a pin in that. So we were editing the notes here. Outstanding issues. List. All right. List of plugins. Sorry, potions still needs updating. Okay, so we'll add that in. Oh, right, I hadn't started saving this. So, BuffBars. What I tend to do is, since I will tend to initialize a repository, start with whatever, and then add my changes in, I add a folder called website, and then I forget my naming convention, so I come into a different one, and I say, aha, Loader Interface Description. Great. That's the name we want. So we come into Plugins, Pungros, BuffBars, Website, and this is Loader Interface Description version 2.1.1.1. Awesome. We can save that there. Okay, so we were working on the installation, download this patch and unzip it. Oh, to install BuffBars. Alternatively, actually I need to wait on that, but eventually I would like to add this to plugin compendium with dependencies on both of those, and then it's just use plugin compendium. Okay. To load the plugin, that's all fine. When the managers find BuffBars in the list on the left side, verify that the version is 2.1.1.1. If it is 2.1.1, then you have not properly installed the patch. Click load. Excellent. So, little history. We have 11.09 version 2.1.1.1. Initial release. Excellent. So now that we have that, oh, do I still have it somewhere? I did it in one of them. Thank you for calling that out, Invention. It also contains a Pongo's plugins. Awesome. Thank you. Excellent. Okay, so with that in mind, we can come on back to Loader Interface, and we can go ahead and submit a patch. Upload patch. Excellent. So we're going to choose a file. I was going to say, we already created a zip file. Did we make any changes after that? No, we resisted the urge. So BuffBars 2111. Awesome. Manage images. I don't really feel like this needs images, but a good title would be great. Before, they called it BuffBars MaJ Update 2017. BuffBars, what did I say I fixed in this? Yeah. Now, do people know this as the MaJ update, or like, how do people in the know refer to this patch, or do they just say that one French patch? Okay. While I wait for Annie an answer. Generally, people don't even know about it. You just stumbled across it. Oh, great. I will just say this is MaJ /update 2017 patch fixes, maybe. I don't want to tie it too closely to that. But I mean, that's what this is. This is really just fixing some of the bugs that patch brought in. But maybe we'll go ahead and rename it if this grows into a bigger thing that tweaks more stuff. But right now, that's all it is. Okay, so we have a description that we already typed up. Easy. Rules and guidelines. I do encourage you to read this at least once if you are going to post on Loader Interface. I feel pretty good about what we've added here today. So we're just going to go ahead and upload that. Your file was successfully uploaded. Now, neat. I can go ahead, back to Loader Interface, list my interfaces, and I can see that right now. What I would love to see is, it's 1155. So we can go ahead and go back into the plugin compendium and start changing things. So 1155, I think that was. Excellent. Oh, one after the 1154 I just did. Fun. So 361, you know what? I can't change all of them. 1155. 361, excellent. Fix that, and fix that. But this one's an actual dependency. I need it to stay that way. Excellent. Oh, you know, Thorolor did a really interesting side-by-side plugin compendium file, and I'm wondering if maybe that's better. But he also did his own .plugin file, I think. Let me go take a look at that. So if I go look at documents, plugin along, and the plugins that I had before we started. Let's see, I think it was actually in Buff Monitor. A different one that I have enjoyed a lot. Okay, that was Buff Monitor with that, so it's in P-Tweet. There we go. So what he did was Buff Monitor QuickSlot.plugin. So you should not load this patch directly, instead load Buff Monitor. I don't feel like that's a great user interface, though, because then you have an extra entry here that says, yeah, don't do that. But I think the separate .plugin compendium file is really interesting, and I think you have to have both of them if you're going to have either of them. I wonder if that's what's necessary for a patch. Would it be? Well, we'll have to try and see. I will report back on that. Okay, but the good news is we have that, the .plugin compendium file, and this one has the ID of this and the correct version and the reference to first BuffBars and then the other patch. And we're gonna try that and see what happens. So in order to have that, we're gonna go ahead and find the right folders. Oh my goodness. So we're in releases, great. We want to go ahead and put that plugin compendium file in here. Is it the right one? Yes, it is. Excellent. So copy that over. Awesome. And then we're going to go ahead and commit a bit of a no-no. We're just going to go in and edit the current 1.1.101. Yeah, delete that. And re-upload in place, or gonna try anyway. Okay, let's edit those files. So we're gonna replace that with BuffBars, that one, awesome. And update. What? You need to enter a new version. It's the same version. Ugh. I was afraid of that. Fine. Oh, but I can't do that because the versions are wrong. This chicken and egg nonsense. I tell you. Okay, so this is actually version 1.2. And in here, in plugin compendium, it's also version 1.2. We're going to go ahead and copy that information over into the release here. Great. And then go ahead and make a new zip file. Awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. BuffBars 2.1.1.2, good enough. Which means we can go ahead and update this. Added plugin compendium file. Okay. Let's try that. And as you can see, I just saved off that new description just for reference. Okay. So we can go list my interfaces. We can see that 2112 is uploading. I just realized I didn't update the version in the text here. This is why nothing ever happens. Okay, so we can see this this file is a patch for BuffBars by Penguros. You must have that installed. That's an automatic message. This is awaiting approval from an admin. Awesome, love it. Hooray for oversight. And we're calling it BuffMaJ 2017 patch fixes. So that if you see the one, you will hopefully see the other one. BuffBars. Awesome. There's that, and then there's patch fixes. Neat. Total downloads, 0, which is fine. It's still pending. No one can download it anyway. Okay, so what do we have? We have an update which should be added to plugin compendium for, because otherwise this is a patch on a patch on a plugin. Ideally, we can fix that. So plugin compendium. You know, it's funny, I say that, but then there's a link in here to plugin compendium. It's fine. Let's draw plugin compendium, and then I have to remember which one it is. Neat. Okay. So we can see comments. Hey, can you add stuff? So we're just going to add the same one. So post reply. And then my previous ones worked very nicely, so let's just copy that. Hi there, could you please add... Yeah, no. So that's the original link. We just want to go ahead and update that with the 5. Oh, it's not going to work. Oh, I might need the thing to actually be published to have the link to it. Are you done yet? Okay. So when that has been posted, I will have the link to it, and then... Boy, I wish I could just... and then I will go ahead and be able to post this here. After some amount of time, Lunar Water will go ahead and add it to the system if it works. And I might add a note here about how it's a patch on a plugin. So I hope I wrote the dependencies section correctly. Please let me know if there are any problems. Great. Okay, so there we have it. We have created a patch for BuffBars. Are you done yet? And this patch is actually a patch on the other patch, the MaJ Update 2017 patch, which fixes 3 of the issues happening over there. Let's take a look, just to remind ourselves. So when you saved a change, you got a clone, a non-interacting clone of the window that persisted until you logged off and didn't respect things like the F12 key. It just sat there. Now, if you didn't move the window, you might not notice it, but as your effects list changes, the prior one is just going to be sitting there being very annoying. So fix that. At the same time, we changed, instead of constantly pulling the system and saying, should I be visible, should I be visible, should I be visible, we just changed it to essentially a push notification where if you click the icon, it tells all of the existing windows, go update yourself. That, by coincidence, fixed the problem where F12 was not getting the effects window to hide, because the effects window did hide, and then the very next update frame it said, oh, nope, I should be visible, and undid it. So really, these are kind of in the opposite order. But finally, there is that potential performance issue of each of the windows getting an update call every single frame. We're not doing that anymore. So you might see your system running just a slight bit better with this patch. Not going to claim a whole lot of improvement, but your Lotro will just be doing a slightly tiny bit less work every frame. And that's not nothing. Cool. Okay, so that was awesome. I wasn't sure how far we were going to get this stream, but that makes me really happy that we were able to go ahead and find a path forward and get it done and get it at least starting to go out. Are you done yet? So if you have any questions on what we've done so far, any comments, any thoughts on BuffBars, that maybe things should be included in a future patch, spit it out into chat here while I take a drink and while we kind of move towards the end of the stream. Oh, yes, don't forget, Extra Life is still nominally going on. The big 12-hour plus streaming day was last Saturday, and over 20,000 American money units was raised for Children's Hospital, Boston Children's Hospital, but you can still donate. So if you are able to and willing to, you can head on over to the extra-life.org page. Standing Stone Games, who makes Lord of the Rings Online, does have a team page. If you are of a mind to do so, please feel free to support any of them. I am not personally raising money, but Little Redhead, who just posted the link, was raising money. She hit her goal. Awesome. But there could be other streamers on the Standing Stone Games team that have not hit their goal yet, and they would love your support. So if you have money and you like children, consider sending your money to help children. Chromite says they've run into performance issues with it. When at level 85 on their Guardian, I pulled the entire second area of Urgarth on my Guardian. Had debuff get stuck forever till I died. Well, I can't guarantee this will fix that. You might just want to not pull all of Urgarth. But it'll be just a little bit less every frame saying, okay, change visibility, change visibility. Ideally, those were mostly null ops, but we are talking about at least 2 function calls in Lua, which even in a compiled form, that's got to take a few cycles on your processor. Oh yes, thank you, Little Redhead. If you do donate to Extra Life at pretty much any level, but I think it starts at 10 for some of the group prize raffle drawing kind of thing going on, do contact Cord on the Lotro forums and let Cord know that you did donate and how much you donated. And if you want stuff from the community loot list, go ahead and probably tell him that as well. I want this horse and this title and this other thing. And then don't expect an immediate response, but over the next month, as things calm down, he may get to do it. I think there's time information on that thread about what to expect. But since we're running up into the American, the U.S. Thanksgiving and also the U.S. Christmas holidays, I imagine they're going to be quite busy over at the Standing Stone Games offices. All right. Cool. Well, I'm not seeing anything else coming to the chat. Thurlor, good to see you. I don't know if you've been here this whole time, but actually, if you're still here, Thurlor, before I sign off, I had a question for you. And the question was in a window that I've closed. Pardon? Okay, so plugin along. Nope, plugin along. And plugins, and this is on your patch for the pTweety plugin buff monitors. Oh, you just popped in. Great, welcome. In this patch, you did a side-by-side .plugin and .plugin compendium file. And I was curious about doing a .plugin compendium file that could install the base and then install your patch. And so I was wondering, is this side-by-side necessary? Because if it were the same name, it would interfere with plugin compendium first laying down the plugin and then the patch? Or was this just sort of, what was the reason for having the side-by-side instead of just replacing the original plugin compendium? And is that necessary, like a necessary thing to do a patch on Lotro compendium patch? Cool, well, I'll give you a second to respond and fill up my water with different water. If it takes too many words, no problem. I would love to know, but don't feel like you have to rush and get it in here in the last couple of seconds of the stream. But yeah, I will give you, you don't remember. So I'm going to try it the other way where I have where I just changed the base plugin compendium to do that. And see what happens. But I was very interested in the idea of being able to submit patches to Plugin Compendium, and I couldn't recall if this was necessary. So I'll let you know what happens. Cool. Okay. Well, cool. I'm glad you were able to pop in. We were just doing some fixing of the BuffBars MaJ Update 2017, which introduced some creative issues. All right, are you up-to-date with it? It's there! There's been 3 downloads. That's insane. Okay, cool. Well, in that case, I can finish adding this comment. And preview that post. Could you please add that thing? And the link works. Awesome. Ba-ba-bum. Great. Post that message. And go look at it. Okay, so if you're adding something to Plugin Compendium, just add a post, a reply to this thread, and then Littlewater may very well not respond, but the proof is in Plugin Compendium seeing it. And so a day or a week later, just check and see if it's in here. Oh, Chromite has a question. Is it possible to make a lightweight plugin that can act similar to BuffBars, but only have it check your target for debuffs? Hunters have a few debuffs that are handy to track: penetrating shot, crit chance, debuff, and barbed arrow. Well, it is possible for a plugin to know that your target has changed. I don't know if it's possible for a plugin to track. All right, I need to have fewer windows open. I don't know if it's possible for a plugin to know all of the things on a target, though I would assume that the answer is maybe. So if we get a local player and we have target, yeah, get target, it's going to be an entity. Neat. So if the entity is an actor, then we can get effects on that actor. So that's a solid maybe. We'd have to check to make sure the target is an actor, but then we could enumerate the effects. The trick is, I don't know if the effect list tells you where the effect came from. So let's say you and another hunter are in the same party, and there's a barbed arrow bleed on it. Does it matter the fact that, there could be 2 barbed arrow bleeds on there, I assume, 1 from each of you. So I don't know about that. I don't know if there's a way to tell where the effect came from. Well, this is an effect list, which is a list of effects. Okay, there's no obvious way to see where it came from. Oh, Thurlore says the API supports it, but the feature is broken. So it sounds like maybe getting a list of effects on a target is not solidly supported right now, if I understand Thurlore correctly. So there's two potential problems with it. 1, it might not work at all. And 2, if you see a barbed arrow bleed on there, whose is it? In the event that you're in a group with more than 100. If you're just talking about soloing, then it would be pretty self-evident whose bleed it is. But once you get into groups, we have a regular Saturday group here on Treebeard, and there's 2 hunters and 2 non-hunters, and so that's great because they can do different lines or do whatever hunters do, but they're likely to be doing similar debuffs as well. Okay, well, I will not spend too much time worrying about it, but cool, thanks for jumping in there, Thurlore. I think it'd be interesting to have to play around with what parts of it work and what parts don't, but that's not really on my radar right now. It works partially, but there's no reliable way to monitor effects on your target currently. So if you get the list of effects right when the target switches, that might be correct, but then you can't know that it's changed unless you change targets and then come back to it, maybe. The list itself can be wrong. That's exciting. Now you've got me curious. All right, I'm making a note that on a future stream, maybe I'll dig into target effects and kind of get a sense of what works and what doesn't. Probably check the forums to see what's been documented already, and I'm going to assume it hasn't changed a lot since anyone else has done their own research on that. But cool. One more thing to play around with. I have done such a small amount of stuff with effects. I was musing earlier that on plugins that deal with effects, it could be very useful to have a debug button that says, pretend I just got poisoned, so I don't have to find something to to poison me and make sure it works. But when you have code that's used to dealing with actual effects, and then you have an effect UI element that's like, here is an effect that I got from the game, go ahead and display it to the user. I'm not sure how you fake that out. I'm not sure if it's possible, and if it is, I don't know that anyone does it. But I think it would be very handy to have those kinds of debugs, like pretend I just got poisoned, I just got a wound, for however many seconds, and then create a fake effect in the game, or a class that just looks like an effect as far as Lou is concerned. Pass that off and see if it can sit in the what's it called? Turbine UI Lotro effect display. Can you pass it an arbitrary thing that just happens to have the functions and the members, or will it freak out at that point? But if you could fake out an effect, I think that'd be really useful for these things that are like, well, you better go find a wound or else you can't see parts of the UI that relate to being wounded. Okay, awesome. You'll send me a link. That's great. I would appreciate that because I know so many of you all have already dug into the limitations of the Lua system as it currently stands, which sort of gives us points if they ever put out a call for, hey, what should we fix? Well, at least we have some documentation of what's broken. Okay, well then, I think that is all that we're going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of Lotro plugins. I do hope to see you next week. And until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.